for the speaker. If you would like to speak and ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature and don't forget to lower it once you're done. When you're ready to speak, please don't forget to unmute your microphone, especially important during votes. We record those, and don't forget to mute your microphone when you're done. As a reminder, all the audience members are only permitted to speak during the call to the audience unless called upon by the committee. This meeting is being recorded to satisfy the open meeting law requirements. All right, so we've done that. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to item E, call to the audience. Do we have anybody in the audience that would like to contribute? Do we have any audience? Would you like to contribute? Okay. All right. We'll move on to the safety share. We don't have Jackson here, and he's always uber prepared for the safety share. So I'm just wondering who else is chomping at the bit to help us out.
Got one.
Great. Excellent.
We had so here at Water Campus, we have some bikes that are provided by the Health and Wellness Program to encourage people to be able to get some exercise, or if they want to take a break and use them. The other day, we had somebody select a bike that wasn't sized appropriately for them. The seat was far too high, and they took a spill as they were getting on the bike. Thankfully, they weren't moving. But just a reminder that you don't have to be moving to picture yourself. Pick a bike that's appropriate size. If you're not used to riding a bike, then probably shouldn't be riding on it.
That's crazy. Anybody else? Well, I will share that I've been having chronic back problems, which can creep up on you. And it can really inhibit your ability to stay healthy and to move. So I highly recommend getting PT more quickly than I did, like before 6 months is up. So yeah, that's one thing that I think is really important, especially as we age, to stay limber and healthy, keep yourself moving. So anybody else want to share anything? Sort of a health share. All right, we'll move on to item number G, or letter G. Approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
So moved.
Well, let's see if anybody has any comments. Yes. Go ahead.
On page 2, paragraph H1 in the third line, there's a reference to the county lobbyist, Michael Rossi.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he spells his name R-A-C-Y.
Jeanette is not here. I'm going to make a note of that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Nope. Thanks. Thanks.
These are so complete. Just Jeanette's not here to hear that.
What was, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying they're so complete. Michael Rossi's name, Matt brought up that it might be spelled a bit differently.
Okay, I will double check.
Okay, thank you. And now it's all right. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're going to move on to item H, discussion and action. You'll notice Jackson is not here today, so we don't have a report from the director, but we'll move through the rest of the items.
Ellen's not on yet.
What's that?
Ellen's not on yet.
Ellen's not on yet.
So let's start with that.
Okay, well, let's go ahead with Matt's. Oh, the finance. Okay, she's requesting that we move to the financial subcommittee report. Matt Mathewson, would you like to provide an update?
You're muted.
There we go. Thanks. On April 9th, 2024, the RAC Financial Subcommittee reviewed and discussed the RWRD financial plan for 2024. And we passed a motion to support the plan and to recommend to the full committee that it also support the financial plan and its recommendations. At this point, coming after Ellen, I would have submitted that motion of support, but I think I'll hold off until we have, well, why don't I just go ahead and make the motion? Maybe we get a second, and then we'll consider all the discussion once Ellen gets here.
Matt, I do have a call in place for Ellen to give her the timeline that the meeting has started. So hopefully she'll be on as soon as possible.
Okay. So I will offer a motion that the committee express its support of the 2024 RWRD financial plan to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation that the board approve the 2024 RWRD financial plan.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. We're going to go ahead and hold off on the rest of that. Matt, do you have anything to add? I don't believe there were a lot of changes, or there's just some clarifications that came out of our last.
Yeah, we just discussed a variety of issues, and related to that, I'll add that the financial subcommittee, in its discussion of the financial plan, identified some issues that merited further study and discussion prior to the development of next year's financial plan. These issues mainly centered on the discussion of a committee policy that was adopted at our November 16th, 2017 meeting, as is discussed on page 11 of this year's plan. And the subcommittee agreed with the finance department to review that policy in light of finance's planning pillars that we've heard about in the past to ensure an appropriate consistency between the committees and the department's policies and the county at large. So this will also give the RAC the opportunity to fulfill its purpose under its founding ordinance to, quote, act as the official advisory body on RWRD's rate structure formulation to county government. So we basically envision having at least a couple of meetings of the subcommittee during the coming months. First one, maybe not until mid to late summer. We discussed the possibility of August, but once we want to be sure to have these discussions and have concurrence in our policies prior to getting the 2025 financial plan on the table for us to consider.
That's great. I understand Ellen is on. Ellen, we moved on to a motion, but we would like to get a presentation or a discussion with you in regards to that motion.
Ellen, you're muted.
I apologize for being late. So what was the motion that you would like to discuss?
Would you like to say it again?
Ellen, this is Matt. I had made a motion that the committee support the 2024 financial plan as drafted. And then I went on to mention that we were going to have some follow-up meetings to better understand and square away the policies between the committee as stated back in 2017 and the department or the county's financial planning pillars for wastewater. So mentioned that we would be meeting in probably August and perhaps one or two times after that to do that. But the motion itself was to approve the plan and recommend further approval to the board. Or not,
So,
we would support the plan. I'm sorry, we're not really approving it.
right, so the discussion that we had at the last meeting of this body, as well as the subsequent meeting with the financial subcommittee, was to, as Matt indicated, talk a little bit more about the underlying assumptions that drive the creation of the financial plan. What was requested of finance was to put together basically a white paper, if you will, on how the county's overall capital improvement philosophy applies to wastewater. So that would entail how PAYGO works within the county and how that applies to wastewater, and what limitations that or changes to that PAYGO policy apply to wastewater because of the differences of the kinds of construction that wastewater is doing, and quite frankly, the dollar amount of those constructions, limiting our ability to continue to reduce the length of time. The subcommittee graciously gave me several months to pull that together, so that will be happening this summer. I appreciate the subcommittee's recommendation to move forward with the rate workbook and the financial plan as was presented to you at our last meeting.
Okay. Did you have, we actually skipped the two items which you have your name by them. And did you want to add anything to, we have two of these, the financial plan review and the 2024-25 budget request status update. So would you like to go back and cover either of those in more detail at this time, Ellen?
The financial plan did not change from what was presented to you, so I don't really feel the need to go over that again. With regard to the status of the budget, the recommended budget from the county administrator is due to the Board of Supervisors on Friday. That will be released to the public sometime Friday afternoon as it goes to the Board of Supervisors. We have scheduled the Board of Supervisors has scheduled a study session on the budget to occur on May the 7th, after the normal Board of Supervisor meeting has ended. So that's a time uncertain. The last board meeting went till 2:30, so I would imagine that somewhere after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they would begin their study session. We are currently booking that for, I believe we're booking it for like 3 hours, where the board will ask any number of questions, of which I am not privy to as of yet, on the entire county budget and how it was created. The next step in the budget process is on May the 21st, when the board will adopt the tentative budget, which includes the tax rates. Included in the recommended budget is the financial plan, which basically is the costs that wastewater has requested in their requested budget, as well as no rate increases. So those are the two wastewater components that are tied into the overall county budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the overall budget process if you have any.
Is that recommended budget going forward tomorrow or next Friday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I have books being printed today.
Nice. Okay. All right. So we currently have a motion on the floor with regard to our recommendation of the financial report. We have all seen this report. We've had a number of iterations. The financial committee has also spent a couple different meetings, several meetings, looking at it. Does anybody have any discussion that they would like to add to this motion, or do you want to bring anything to light at this point? I would add that I do feel confident that we've spent due diligence looking at this budget or at this financial plan. I would also like to give my appreciation to Matt and to others for spending a lot of time really looking at the details. Sometimes they would bring up things that in these meetings that I would be like, what? How did you even notice that? So I really appreciate that, and knowing the time and effort you've put on this, I feel more confident supporting anything that is put forward. So I want to offer my appreciation to you on that. Any other discussion points from any member of the committee? Hearing none, I will call the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion, and any opposed? Nope. All right, the motion passes. We're good. Oh, we have Kimberly is not here, and she is the next. CIP. The Roger Road reuse, yes. Let's move on to the CIP subcommittee report. Asia?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Claire. Yes, the CIP subcommittee, our next meeting is scheduled for May 14th. That's a Tuesday, I think in the morning from 8 to 10 a.m. And we'll be discussing kind of the longer view, big picture items. I don't think we won't be focused on this. Well, we do always cover the current fiscal years and the 5-year, but we'll also look at the longer view at this next meeting in May. And so that's all I have to report for the CIP committee. I welcome any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Asia? Great. Okay. Yes. Unfortunately, Kimberly is not here to talk about the Roger reuse assessment, and she will hopefully be here shortly. Okay, perfect. We will move on to the fiscal year 23-24 period 9 expense report. Isaiah Centeno, are you available?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I'll share my screen and we can definitely go over the information. Excellent. I hope everyone can see my screen. So here's the expense and revenue summary for March period 9. Scroll down here to total O&M expenses, not including contra. Our budget has not adopted budget has not changed, 96.7 million. Our actuals are 70.1 million so far, and we're projecting to be $100 million, giving us a variance of 3.3 million. Scrolling down here to total O&M expenses, including contra, depreciation, and debt services. Our adopted budget is 176 million. Our actuals is 125.4 million, and our projection is 178.7 million, giving us a variance of $2.6 million. Scrolling down to a total revenue, adopted budget, it's 194.6 million. Actual right now is 157.8, and we're projecting to be at 206.4, giving us a positive variance of $11.8 million. And another thing that was added to this report was a ratio. The reading ratio, the adopted ratio was 1.4, and the forecast is 1.7. Good trends. Anyone has any questions?
Matt, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Isai, with that $2 million variance, will the department be under any pressure to bring that back to balance by the end of the year, or is there a recognition and a mechanism to end the year in that negative sort of position.
No, you're correct. The department will be kind of pressure to bring that to a positive, but also with what I said, a contingency funds that were set aside. So we're in the works to, once we start hitting budget stops and kind of those things, start bringing some of those funds over to cover some of those negative balances.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. We'll move on to the Citizen Water Advisory Committee meeting activities. Yeah, is there anyone from Citizen Water available?
Good morning. This is Beth. Good morning.
Good morning, Beth. Is she going to report?
Beth, will you be able to provide a report?
I wasn't expecting to, so no. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. Who's our representative?
Alan, but he won't be
Oh,
here.
but Alan is not here.
Oh,
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll
Can skip
skip
that.
that for this time. And I think that's, we're still waiting for Kimberly. So I'm going to move on to the next item, which is our letter of appreciation for Allison Jones. And for Armando. 2 letters here. We have had really amazing membership here. I don't know that Armando is here, is he? I don't know how many of you have been on here a long time, but let's just start with Armando. He has, I don't know how long he's been here.
25 years.
25 years. I remember him from years and years ago. He's always come through with interesting comments. He'll be quiet and then he'll ask the most. He would ask the most, to the point questions, and really just a very earnest kind of person and fun. And I've really enjoyed having him on the committee. Would anybody else like to say anything at this time?
Yeah, yeah, he actually predated me on this committee and so he was this wonderful continuity throughout the whole time I've been here. And just a real solid person, just a good guy, and really appreciated having him around.
And then we also have a letter of appreciation here for Allison Jones, who I had no idea how much was, well, I did know what was going on with CWAC, but would she bring it here. So all kinds of details, lots of appreciation for them. Anybody want to comment, provide a comment? Anne Marie.
Yeah, I really appreciated having them both on the committee, but we always talked about who was the longest serving committee member, and I think between the two of us, I always figured I was, but there was always that question about who it was. But I really enjoyed having both of them on the committee and working with both of them. And on subcommittees, their input was just extremely valuable. And I've been here a long time, and I've worked with a lot of great people, and these two have been really great to work with. So the letters are richly deserved for both of them. I know they've contributed so much over the years to the committee.
Did everybody have a chance to review the letters and give them a look? Yeah. Thank you. Matt, did you want to add something?
Yeah, all I'll say is that Armando will always be presente in our hearts.
Gonna take up the presente mantle.
No.
So everybody had a chance to review the drafts. Do I hear a motion to approve us to sign these drafts and forward them on to both Armando and Allison?
I make a motion, Scott will do work to, as stated.
Okay.
I can second that.
Great. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will go ahead and sign these today after the meeting and send them off. Jeanette, thank you for your hard work to put
You're
these
welcome.
together. They're beautiful and I think they'll be very appreciated.
I think so as well.
Yes. Kimberly, do we have a Kimberly?
Our normal start time starts in 4 minutes, so she should be here.
All right,
shortly.
all right.
Call the audience.
Let's see, no, we have future agenda items. Are there any future agenda items that people would like to see?
Actually, I have a future agenda item. I think it would normally come up in the director's report, but there's just been articles in the paper about all the positions being, that new policy to eliminate unfilled positions at the county. And I'm just wondering how that's going to affect the department, since I know we have trouble filling positions because of the technical requirements. So I think Jackson would normally just cover that in the director's report. So I'm not sure it's an actual agenda item, but maybe just a comment to Jackson if he could talk about that at the next meeting, or whomever's giving the director's report.
That's great, yeah. I think that would be good. I've noticed those as well. Ah, yay, just before call to the audience. All right, any other future agenda items before we move off that item? Okay, we will move back up the agenda and to item 2H2, Roger Road reuse assessment. We have a site overview, Kimberly Baeza, permit and regulatory compliance officer at the department.
Can we pull up a presentation?
I have your PowerPoint here.
Oh,
Is that
that,
acceptable?
no,
I mean,
so, I have an abbreviated one.
okay.
I shared with the group the presentations that the consultants Vita Nova provided to us, a summary of the work they did from October of last year to March of this year. I also provided slides from Mackenzie Waller at the U of A College of Architecture and Landscape Architecture. And I had a custom slide with where I had, let me see, I'll pull it up.
I don't know if I have access to get in.
I think you do.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Let me see. Well, I think that's it. So disclaimer from the outset that most of the slides here were prepared by Vita Nova, and the last few are from Mackenzie Waller. This is mine. I presented a couple of days ago at a workshop that the Center for Creative Land Recycling and EPA were hosting in Wilcox. And so just a quick overview of the Roger Road facility for those of you who have been kind of out of the loop of what's been going on. So this facility was.
Are you sharing the screen?
Oh, let's do that. Okay.
That's okay.
There we go. Let's put it in presentation mode. Can we do that? Down here, the little.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah. I don't know that that's being shared now.
Yep, it is. It's got a red line around it.
Oh, okay. Great. Okay, so it was decommissioned 10 years ago, and a few departments like I think the sheriff and PAC have used it. PAC stores dog food in one of the little metal buildings out there. They retrofitted it, but anyways, so picture up here, obviously from when it operated. This is how the larger one, how most of us experience the site. It's right on the loop between the loop, on the east bank of the Santa Cruz River. And it's immediately south of the Agua Nueva facility. And so in late 2022, I reached out to EPA after getting lots and lots of emails from them saying that the Brownfields program had gobs and gobs of money to do all sorts of work. And I knew from a workshop I'd attended back in the 2010s that this very much qualified as a Brownfields property. And so I reached out, and they were very quick to put a lot of resources at our disposal. In 2023, they worked on phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessments. They wrapped those up March of last year. And contrary to the fear that some had that there was like perhaps widespread contamination and so forth, it didn't pan out. So what they found was lead in the paint of equipment like those pipes you see there, and asbestos. And these are not things that the county is liable for, because at the time that they were incorporated into these structures and equipment, they were conventional building materials. They do have to be remediated. They're in stable condition right now, but there's, things degrade over time. So we want to take care of that. And so last fall, we submitted an EPA cleanup grant application for $500,000 to do the remediation, just removing the asbestos and lead-based paint. And I'm hoping that in the next month or so, we'll get, we'll find out that we're awarded the grant. No guarantee, of course, but I'm very hopeful. And if not this year, we'll probably apply for next year and hopefully get it done in the not so distant future. The site will be safe for animals, and even if nothing else occurs there, it'll be a triumph for the site because there won't be any risk of release after all these are removed. And so another program from EPA that we took advantage of was the land revitalization program. It's also under Brownfields, and what they did is they put a consultant at our disposal to do a site analysis, a market analysis, best use analysis, and stakeholder engagement. So they began that work last fall and wrapped up the project last month. We have the report. I shared that with you guys. I also need to post it on the intranet for easy access for people.
It is on the RAC webpage too, as well. It's already uploaded for everybody to access.
Wonderful. Yeah. And so all the, thus far, all the value of all the assistance we've gotten totals up to more than $300,000. And it is just free money. We just had to give them access to the site, and they came and did all this work for us, which is huge. Yeah. And so the goal of this land revitalization reuse assessment was to understand the site, to find what the constraints are, what the best opportunities are, and kind of help us start charting a path forward. And so just a quick overview. So again, I mentioned how, can you see the cursor? Maybe. I can't see the cursor on the screen. Okay. I can see it on my screen, but I won't bother. But the pointer. Oh. So the red outline in the purplish red area, it's kind of hard to see because of the color there, but that is the outline of the property. It's just under 50 acres. And as you can see, it's very in the middle of very cool stuff around in the area, like the Sweetwater Wetlands, the Loop, the Christopher Columbus Park on the other side, and of course, fairly good access because it's right off the 10. And an interesting tidbit is that the flood control district is anticipating building a pedestrian bridge roughly from Columbus Park to the property. So if it gets developed into like an open space area, or even if the light industrial concept that I'll talk about later comes to fruition, there's fantastic access for the property. And getting better, as I said, because they're going to build a pedestrian bridge. Okay, so let's see, what's there? Lots of structures, dozens of them. This was the first facility of its type in Pima County, and it operated for around 60 years. So there's a lot of stuff there. And So these are the consultant slides. I told you how the environmental site assessments revealed that the only hazardous materials on the property, despite the 60 years of industrial use, is the asbestos and lead-based paint. They found no soil contamination. And then again, talking about how fantastic the location is right along the Santa Cruz River, on the loop, easy access to the 10. And one of the hurdles, as far as like connectivity to neighborhoods, it is quite disconnected from the nearby Flowing Wells neighborhood. And at the public stakeholder engagement workshop we hosted as part of wrapping up the project back in February, we had a couple of people from the nearby neighborhood who attended, and they expressed interest in like open space. And they said they'd remain engaged in the process to hopefully influence what comes there. And it only seems appropriate to me since they endured the stench of the facility for decades. It's only suiting that they have a say in what comes next. But you know, there's a lot of funds in federal coffers for EJ properties and projects. And unfortunately, this is not in a census tract that ticks that box, but the proximity may help us tap into some of those funds, or at least in whatever application we put forth, you know, it provides some extra points for us. The market analysis, you know, there's a strong demand for housing in the area, and there's no indication that that is going to go away. And the current zoning of the property would allow for that, but again, because it's so disconnected from grocery stores, pharmacies, and other community services, it may not be the best suited for that. But it's a possibility, you know, just because demand for housing is high here and across the state, pretty much across the Southwest. And the one use that would probably not be supported based on market conditions is for office space. They found that office space in the area has been flat. Growth for that has been flat, in fact, there's quite a bit of vacant office space. But all other uses could be supported at the property. And then I've already gone through this, you know, a huge asset that the property boasts is the proximity to the loop and the high ridership that we know occurs on the multi-use path. Constraints, of course, is, you know, what I mentioned already, the disconnectedness from the neighborhood, and it would need quite a bit of investment as far as making it accessible and usable by the community. Let's see.
Did I see that it's also in an archaeological zone?
Yes.
And so wouldn't that make housing challenging?
Perhaps, you know, it's already so impacted.
Oh,
Just the fact that it's along the Santa Cruz River and, you know, the thousands of years of agricultural history, it's kind of like a given that there would be stuff there. It is very highly impacted. I do not know the extent to which the Office of Sustainability archaeologists have looked into it and whether they think this was like a significant concern there. But just based on maps in the fact that most of the Santa Cruz River corridor is an archaeological zone,
right.
Yeah, they flagged it.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, many of us, when I started looking into this back in 2022, I reached out, I think, to Jaime, and he shared some cost estimates for demolition, which I thought was like a requirement for reusing the property. Turns out, as I'll share later, it is not, but it is a very costly thing should we decide to demolish everything before putting whatever comes next there. There's lots and lots of below ground structures, and the demolition estimates that these consultants arrived upon is if we demolished everything to 6 feet below ground. And yeah, it's very costly. There are a few structures, the admin building, and it's actually a very beautiful building. I like brick structures, and that is like a classic, beautiful, intact brick building. So the 3 outlined in yellow right here are in very good condition. They do have asbestos, I think asbestos primarily, and one of them may have the equipment that has lead-based paint. But these buildings, should the remediation occur and they be retrofitted, could be very lovely spaces to repurpose for another use. And the low ball figure and the high ball figure of what a demolition could look like. This would leave the property, a blank slate, and everything would be removed to 6 feet below ground. So it's rather costly, up to $12.5 million. Okay, so another very cool component of the work that they did for us is that they did stakeholder engagement. And so I put them in touch with organizations that I knew were interested in the property or could be interested in the property, and they interviewed all these stakeholders, and the following are some of the takeaways from those interviews. There was lots of interest for developing the property into open space. With the proximity to the Santa Cruz River and my awareness of some flooding issues in the neighborhood, flood control was interviewed too, and they were very willing to work with us or whoever ends up developing the site, to address some of those concerns, perhaps incorporate more riparian habitat along the river. Let's see. We go back. Heath and Economic Development, has this vision of like connecting the Roger Road property to the Sunset campus that they're working on. And should you be interested in more detailed plans that he has in mind, I suppose he'd be a good one to present or reach out to. And then, of course, there was lots and lots of interest for open space, conservation, and we had at least like the Audubon Society, they were like, we've been looking at this property and wondering what the county would do with it because, with the proximity to Sweetwater wetlands, we envision like if we could acquire part of the property to have like our headquarters there and do, and it's a fantastic possibility. Another one that many local groups are working on is this idea of an urban wildlife refuge. And actually that is getting closer and closer to bearing fruit, that effort. So as soon as perhaps towards the end of the year, they anticipate that Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland, may designate the Santa Cruz River an urban wildlife refuge. And, this property could support that use as well. Last I heard, though, from Carmine, he wasn't interested at the time to enter this property for consideration for that use. But he's open to at least carving out a portion that is closer to the river for an open space park-like setting. Okay, the Flowing Wells neighborhood. They've been engaged. We had, I think, a couple of them interview their president of the neighborhood association, Kevin Daly, I believe. He's expressed interest in the community getting something out of the redevelopment of this property. And again, the University of Arizona, they actually, and I'll share a few of her students' renderings, but this was such an eye-opening idea for me because, as I said, I had thought like everything needs to be raised to the ground or below for this property to be reused. And it is not the case. Mackenzie Waller came forth with lots of examples of existing industrial parks that have reclaimed former industrial areas into open space, into parks, incorporating the existing structures as art pieces or just interest pieces of the landscape. And I thought that concept was really good. And of course, an added bonus to that is that, you know, if we negate the need for demolition to reuse the space, we could have a park with considerably less resources, less money than many of us had been thinking. So, okay, yeah, you know, the cost of demolition is a huge impediment, but not an insurmountable one, especially with how generous the funds are from many federal agencies interested in developing more like open space and recreational opportunities and so forth. Okay, so the light pink areas in this map do not require a lot of demolition to start with a blank slate. However, the darker shade here has a lot of structures both above and below ground that would require quite a bit of work. So the following few slides have, you know, examples of how the site could be carved up to accommodate different uses. This particular one is one that Carmine expressed more interest in, that carves out, you know, roughly 14 or 15 acres along the river as open space. And then we have a mixed use area, and then the purple is perhaps a light industrial campus.
Does the green arrow represent the bridge?
Yes, yes, it does. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That would be amazing.
It would be.
And
yeah.
it would actually allow access from Silver Bell Road all the way over there, which would alleviate some of these access issues from the east.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, this is another example. This is let's see, you know, the consultants, and they work across the country, so they've come across sites like this or similar to this a lot, and they had examples of how they've been transformed into pretty awesome spaces of many different uses. So it's another one. This leans more heavily towards the light industrial side of things, but they were proposing, you know, like having a comfort station there along the loop, and maybe community gardens, maybe like an education center, and also like a RV park, and so many cool ideas. And then, okay, so I don't know how I'm doing with time. Okay, I'm speed talking, just trying to stay under the, what was it, 10 minutes?
After you were pretty much done. So.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll pull up the entire Mackenzie Waller's slide deck, because I thought it was awesome. I just selected like 3. Okay, so Mackenzie Waller from the U of A Kapla had a group of students come out, one of her classes come out, and they walked around the site, and then they took a few weeks and came back with pretty cool concepts of what could come next, incorporating all these buildings into a park. Mm-hmm. And there's examples from not only the US, but around the world where it's been done. These old industrial facilities that get developed into a park, incorporating the industrial history, the buildings that were there before the park came to be. So Gasworks Park, I believe this is, in Seattle, Washington, is an example. Let's see. It's supposed to, you know, it's right on the water. It's supposed to be a marvelous gathering site. And since we have time, and let me pull that up because it's really cool. She had a lot of examples from, let me see here. Okay, am I still presenting?
Yeah, just, no, don't touch it.
Here. I should know better. I've done this before.
There you go.
Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no. Change the screen.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Gasworks Park in Seattle, Washington, again, former industrial site, now park. Very heavily used, very, and in fact, at the workshop I was in a few days ago, I ran into someone, we started talking about the property, and he, without me prompting, mentioned this as, you know, an example of how an old industrial property can be converted into a park without the need for demolishing everything. Again, some other examples along the river. I don't recall if this is what the site used to be like before. Okay. Anyways, Mackenzie was talking about how, you know, you could incorporate a lot of stormwater capture and other green elements into the creation of this open space. And, you know, she also mentioned how it could be made into like a gathering spot for the community to host events and have food trucks come up. And she mentioned how in many communities that have developed such parks, you know, they become like a focal point and a point, like a place that people seek out to visit and check out. A lot of public art can be incorporated, and in fact, Luke Cole at the Sonoran Institute is already working on slapping a mural on some of the big tanks that face the loop, which I think would be fantastic. And I think he had secured the funding and was going to start working with DaCosta here at the county that has to green light the art installations. Jim or Jeff DaCosta. Yeah, yeah. Another example from the US, I forget what this was, but again, got converted into a park incorporating all the existing or most of the existing industrial structures, and it just makes it more interesting. One more over here. Skate park. Oh, okay. So these are the concept ideas for the Roger Road site. We already have the ponds, incorporating a lot of plantings. Let's see. They had another very cool idea where from those big, let's see if I can find them here. Yeah, from a lot of the large structures, you know, to put trellises and put native vines that can support pollinators and use some of the basins, modify them to be storm capture basins that'll sustain the landscaping that's installed there. Yeah. This student had a very strong drive to use the site to mitigate the heat island effect. So putting a lot of native plantings. And that is it. So I'll remind you, we're hoping to get good news soon about the cleanup grant. And ADEQ has also said that they'll pitch in $250,000 should we need the additional funds. I think they're assuming that we're going to get the APA cleanup grant that'll cover everything, and I hope they're right, but should we need additional funding, they've committed funds from the state revolving fund.
The state revolving.
It's different.
Oh, it's a different one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, EPA feeds into it, but they have more discretion about where they use it, but they're capped at $250,000 per project. Travis even suggested that he could, if we split up the property legally, he would be able to help us with 2 loans. And we may be able to do things that way, but for now, I'm going to remain optimistic that this other big one comes through and we get it all done in one swoop.
Connie, did you have some additional comments that you wanted to offer?
No, it's been all great information from Dr. Rowe. Sorry.
Great. Well, that is fascinating. Did anybody in the committee have any comments for Kimberly?
Well, I'm Scott Oldendorf. I used to work there at Roger Road for a number of years. That's kind of near and dear to my heart. And I've seen the Sweetwater. I really like the concept of the repurposing. I like the idea of the using the existing structures around to make it interesting.
Yeah.
And kind of repurposing some of the clarifier ponds for water recapture. But also I'd like to, I'm always near and dear to my heart are the ponds and fish and everything. It'd be nice if that could be incorporated a little further. My loving memories, if this could ever come back, when I worked at Wastewater, my car was parked right in front of the clarifier. So I was on the landing path of all the mallard ducks coming in. So they always unloaded.
Decorated your car.
So I had to wash my car once a week. But if we could bring back the water, like build it and they will come. If we could build something to bring back the water, the ducks will come.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of that idea.
I don't know if you're aware, but the southwestern corner of the property, like 5 acres, have all the ones that had the ponds, that have the ponds, that's been carved out already. And that's now the Agua Nueva Park. So at least that part was kept alive. And in fact, a few years ago, Parks and Recreation lined those ponds. But yeah, they maintain them. They remain a very popular feature with waterfowl and other critters. And they've also planted, I don't know how many acres of like mesquite and screwbean mesquite, all sorts of cool stuff. So
I really like the repurposing into a park, but it's an industrial avant-garde type of look.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was a new idea for me. I had never visited one of those parks that she brought as examples, but I really like it too.
Yeah,
and especially, you know, it sweetens the deal that the demolition costs are eliminated for the most part. Yeah.
So, but is there going to be a lot of cost for bringing up safety standards, lead paint, asbestos?
So the phase 2 consultants gave us an estimate and they had like $600,000. However, when we applied for the cleanup grant last fall, I reached out to a couple of the companies in town that do that type of work, and it was significantly less. So I'm encouraged by that, and hopefully it gets covered by, the cleanup grant when we get it this cycle or next.
If you're able to repurpose it into a park industrial, it'd be nice if there was some little bit of a museum or little something that explains what the place is, what its purpose was before, and educate the public.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, hopefully, I'm hoping that the project doesn't go away anytime soon. So there will be opportunities to provide input about all these things. And you're in a prime position to remain informed and aware of when meetings occur to put in your 2 cents. Yeah.
Near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
We have a question from Kirsten or a comment.
Just a comment. So when I was working at Pima County Wastewater myself in the late 90s, early 2000s, I have memories of that administration building and operator training and the big conference room that's there and the old office buildings. It was like a secondary office building that we were using at the time. So I love the idea of, keeping that administration building with all the brick and things. I love the idea that Scott just brought up about, a little museum or something like that, even to Pima County Wastewater's history. And I think of the, on the road show about sewer pipes and things and the educational piece of that. So I don't know if that building would be a piece, but I love that idea of keeping some of the history of what it was originally was and the evolution of wastewater from trickling filters to even what we do today with Barden Flow and SBR and all those other new kinds of things. I think a piece of that and the environmental piece that many of us who have worked in the wastewater industry feel, that we're doing good for the environment by doing the best use and the best treatment possible, would be also a good PR piece for the for the department. So just a thought.
One thing I'd like just to emphasize, you're going to have a dual use. I really, really like the bridge concept connecting the two parks across the river, but you have to consider parking. We have the Sweetwater Wetlands, we have the Columbus Park, and we're going to have now the Roger, whatever we call it, park over there, but we need to have a strategically placed parking area so people can use it, so it doesn't look like a concrete thing with parking, but kind of incorporate it nicely. But you have to have enough because we don't want to have too much. You're going to find people from Columbus coming across the river and then going back, but you're also going to have people from the Roger parking here, maybe going to Columbus and coming back. So if they could just keep an eye on that parking, you can make them smaller but more spread out.
Yep. Yeah. I have a comment that I noticed that you had it was sort of vertically profiled out. So industrial, private industrial or what, and then open space. My one concern about that is that there's an opportunity to make this a sort of like a showpiece from the freeway. And if you're taking everybody through industrial area and private area before you even get to the park, it could detract from that. And so there, rather than dividing it vertically, there might be some discussion about making an entryway from the freeway that is not ugly. I'm just saying, we have a number of situations where we have prioritized industrialism along our entryway, and it's a problem for the beautification of the region. Yeah. So, so that's just something that you can say one of us said. Maybe that'll help.
Well, I'll add, I mean, part of the reason why it was separated like that, or even, had this dual use, is directive from county administration to also look at economic development uses for the land.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this work that Vitaminova did is incorporating several different ideas in several different directions, because ultimately who makes the decision on what to do with it is going to be county administration.
The board, yeah. Right.
It's not going to be wastewater.
Right.
So,
I understand.
So
I'm just suggesting that maybe there could be a compromise where you're not going through an industrial area to get to an open space.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, the Brownfields program is very much an economic development proponent type of program. They really are reusing properties. What I think gets lost or has with conversations with economic development is that, the environmental uses, the draw for tourism is itself economic development. And those industries are huge in our region. Tourism, like this is one of the mecca destinations for birders in the country.
It is. And Sweetwater is a mega destination for those birders.
Yes, yes.
As it's the river.
And for instance, like the environmental organizations, that want to have maybe a headquarters or like for not only one of them, but perhaps a few, they employ probably hundreds of people in the region, in the area. So these are very much in line with that goal of enhancing economic development opportunities.
We had one more comment from Asia, but did your hand go back down, Asia? Maybe she had to step away.
Yeah, I did put it down intentionally, but I did want to say thank you and great job, Kimberly, because I do think there is so much that like you had mentioned, the rules and regulations and programs and different things to pursue, to make something happen there. And I think that's, and we're also working with the U of A on just, I think the ideas that Scott and Kirsten and now Claire also bring up are all really, important too. And those are the things that come up, in your community meetings and in other places that do influence, obviously, what the board and administration decisions are. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, thank you. Well, and I'll close unless someone has a comment or question, but by saying, to the degree that you can, the ideas that you've brought forth are fantastic. And we need to hear more of those in these meetings where decision makers are evaluating different things to do. And so I hope that I'm happy for your interest and hope that you remain engaged as things unfold with this property. I think the opportunities are many, and more I see more opportunities than hurdles, especially with EPA personnel earlier this week just being very encouraging, like pursue this funding or how about this approach type of thing. So I think the possibilities are many.
Leaps and bounds beyond where it was even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and I imagine that timelines for moving forward are probably going to be in the 2 to 5 years to move anything forward. But I'm sure we'll have a lot of opportunities for comment. And I would encourage everybody to stay engaged. Maybe we can get an update next year and see how it's going.
Hopefully we've done the remediation by then.
Yes, hopefully we have. Any other comments or questions for Kimberly? Right, thank you so much for bringing that today.
You're welcome.
We have just a couple more things on our list here. A call to the audience. Anybody have anything? All right, and then I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Great. We will adjourn. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. And I won't see you in May, but we'll be back whenever. We skipped June, right?
July.
Or July. So I'll see you in June. All right. Have a good one. Have a good
Thank
day.
you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Great. So should I go ahead and sign?
Really be nice.
Yes, please.